Okay, we'll get started here in just a minute. Looks like we still got people jumping on, so. Okay, everybody, the time is 9 o'clock. We're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We have a packed meeting today, so we're excited to go ahead and get started. I think we've got some great information for you all to join, as well as or for you all to hear, as well as some guest speakers that we have with us today. So first thing on our agenda is our membership report. So I'm very excited to let you all know that we are ahead of schedule of where we thought we would be at this time. So last year, at the end of the year, we ended at the end of the membership cycle, we ended with 48 members. We're at 52. So we have surpassed our retention goal, as well as we are almost to our new membership goal. So we have done very well with that. So that is a thank you, a big thanks to everyone that has reached out to those in our community that could use the resources of the network we have to offer here at Four Rivers SHRM. So great job to everybody on that. We will also be discussing more than likely at our May meeting our summer membership drive that we will have that will almost definitely help us exceed our new membership goals. So and then in addition to that, so today we have with us some representatives from Kentucky SHRM that will be sharing some information, making an introduction to you all. And with us today, we have Amanda Huddleston, who is our Kentucky SHRM chair, as well as Tiffany Cardwell, who is the Kentucky SHRM Foundation chair, and then Rusty Steele, who is the KY SHRM membership chair. So I'm going to turn it over to them, and they have a presentation for us today and to kick off our meeting. And then from there, we will go on to our main presentation. So just one moment, I will share my screen and we will get going with that.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Alan. This is Katie Rainey. I am the director for Kentucky SHRM. Thank you all for having us today and letting us be a part of your meeting. We are kind of on a roadshow across the state, so presenting at all of our chapters over the first 2 quarters of the year, getting to know everyone, kind of putting faces to names for you all, and then bridging the connection between what your local chapter does at Four Rivers and then what the state council does and what National SHRM does. So, as you know, there's kind of a national, state, local. So we all do the same things and work on some of the same processes, just in different ways. So we wanted to say hello, introduce ourselves, and kind of what Kentucky SHRM is up to this year. We can go to the next slide.
Are you seeing the presenter view or the full screen?
I'm seeing the full screen.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure I wasn't sharing the wrong thing.
Oh,
okay.
You're good. You are good. So this slide will just kind of give you a breakdown of what Kentucky SHRM State Council looks like. So Four Rivers is represented on our State Council board by Alan. So your president sits on the board. And then we also have, at-large and core leadership areas. So membership, certification, college relations, foundation. So you'll hear from 2 of our representatives today. And I know that the middle part there is impossible to see. So please don't feel like you need to memorize or learn any of this stuff here. But as you can see, I believe the next slide shows how the state is broken down into 3 different districts there. And then we also have your Western District Director on the call, Miss Martha. So she is here with us as well today. So as you'll see, we have Western, Central, Eastern. You all are down there, obviously on the western part of the state. So we have you all from Paducah all the way right now. The furthest we have is, our Bluegrass chapter in Fayette County is kind of consolidated some of the some of the Eastern and Northeastern chapters that we had for the state council. Go to the next page. So what I'll do now, I'm going to turn it over to Amanda Huddleston, our current chair for the next 2 years, and have her give a little intro on her vision for Kentucky SHRM 2022.
Well, hello, everyone, and thank you, Alan, for having us today, and to Four Rivers. We're really excited, and what great membership numbers. That's amazing. Really proud of you guys, and excited to be here. Thanks for the time. In my tenure with Kentucky SHRM, been here since probably 2009 or 10, probably, that I've been on the Kentucky SHRM board of directors. I'm from our Bluegrass chapter. That's my home chapter. But I'm a Western Kentucky girl at heart. So that's where I was born and raised. So excited to get to work with you all. But this year, one of the things, after kind of coming off, all of us coming off pretty rough couple of years through the pandemic, we really had a lot of initiatives that were already really strong and good, and I didn't want to lose those. So I really wanted to take focus back, really build upon the initiatives we already have versus just trying to introduce something new. So my focus for this year, my 3 primary things is that I want to assist, your local chapters where all the real work is being done, is to help build a better workforce, building a better workplace, and then building a better board. So as chair this year, one of my largest goals is that, and I say this in my place of work, this is what I do, in my job, is that I want everyone that works with me in my company and my organization to be better for having done so. So my big goal is to really help our board professionally, help your local chapters grow, and continue to just kind of build up. So that's been my big goal this year, to do that, and then really working with all of our core leader areas to help on the workforce, and to help those that you guys are leading every day, and then also to help in the workplace, again, to help your role and help those workplaces, be better. So that is my goal. Really excited to be here, and excited to see all the awesome things you guys are going to do. It sounds like you're definitely already on the uptick. So, but thanks for your time. So I'll pass it back over to Katie.
Awesome. Alan, you can go to the next slide for us. So when you think of Kentucky SHRM, I know it'd be easier for all in the same room. We do raise your hand if you've done this, raise your hand if you've done that. So Best Places to Work Kentucky is one of our premier events that we collaborate with the Kentucky Chamber of Commerce on. I know several of your businesses have participated in the Best Places to Work survey process and the event in June. And then we have our Kentucky SHRM annual conference. So if you've attended that, really the full benefit of what you get from that 3-day conference. So we're excited to be back in person fully again this year, August 30th through September 1st in Louisville at the Galt House. We are accepting registrations at this time. Easiest way to go and knock out as many education credits as you would like with HRCI and with SHRM. And then really that's just the best way to network with people across the state. Here's some awesome speakers that really will dive into the effects of what we're all going through as we're transitioning, hopefully more out of, COVID years into what's next for our workforce in the workplace in the state of Kentucky. Go to the next slide. So Rusty, I believe, is not on here. He was unfortunately got caught at a meeting, so I'm going to cover some of these for him as well. So Rusty is our membership director, and you all are obviously already doing an excellent job. There's been so much growth across the state within the first quarter. So it's awesome to see that in real time. And you all had a very successful conference in March that we loved hearing about. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend, even though I did want to, but I'm just excited to see what's going on. I know being back in person does make a difference. Being able to do things and makes a big difference for us. So something that we're working on is retention for dual membership. So if you're a National SHRM member, becoming a local member, and then if you're a local member, becoming a National SHRM member. So you're here, so you see here statistically the difference in tenure with those who have both National SHRM membership and a local membership. If you are a National SHRM member, you probably are aware of the benefits, of having that membership, logging on to shrm.org and getting to see all the resources. There's toolkits, there's training guides, there's how-to guides. It's kind of a best practices toolbox all for you as a National SHRM member. So that's something, as we're looking at bringing members into our local chapters, to provide them additional details on why become both a national and a local chapter member as well. Go to the next slide. So this is something we like to present at every chapter, just as you're thinking about membership and growth. So why did you join SHRM? Why did you join National SHRM? Why did you join your local chapter? For most people early in their career, it's networking purposes. It's because I was told I needed to, or because they had a handbook or resources that I needed. And then why have you continued? A lot of times it changes. Sometimes it's still the same. Sometimes it's still the networking and the friendships. So as you're recruiting people into your local chapter, think about that. Why are you still there? And why did you join? And kind of see where you can meet new members on that pathway for them. Next slide. All right, now we're going to turn it over to Miss Tiffany to talk about the SHRM Foundation for us.
Thanks, Katie. Hi, everyone. Happy to be here, and thank you so much for the invitation. Hopefully at some point, like I mentioned earlier, let us know when you have your networking events too. We'd love to try to make it, or, I travel all across the state, so you never know when I might be in the area. But as was mentioned earlier, I'm the Kentucky SHRM Foundation Director this year, and the slides that are going to be upcoming just kind of share a little bit more about the foundation. Oftentimes when we gather together, maybe at the Kentucky SHRM conference, we don't realize some of the things that are involved. Just like here, these are the latest in terms of the strategic priorities for 2022, and the focus is on elevating HR. And you'll hear that time and time again. Building inclusive workplaces, very critical for all of us now with what we do every day. Next generation HR professionals really thinking about that succession plan and thinking about how do we plan for the future for that next generation. Workplace mental health and wellness, another really critical piece within the workplace that each of us face every day. And then also skill building, just making sure that, again, we're preparing people for what they need to do tomorrow and also for today's workplaces. So just because oftentimes we might not see this from National SHRM, we wanted to make sure to highlight these strategic priorities. Next slide, please. So what can the SHRM Foundation do for you? Some of you may be familiar with this already. So there are scholarships in place, and we're really excited that there have been opportunities for our state to be able to apply. There are certification awards, there are conference awards, there are also academic and research awards available out there. I myself was a recipient of one of these awards when I was starting my career off in Chicago, and it's near and dear to me in terms of that. And I think it's always great to be able to offer that for those that maybe are in smaller organizations, or maybe there's just not a budget around some of this for development. It's really critical to think about. Initiatives as well that are in place. There are programs, in case you're not aware. Hopefully some of you are dual members in terms of both your local chapter and the national SHRM, but there are educational resources out there. Things like Veterans at the Workplace, making sure you understand how to attract, retain veterans. Untapped talent pools, what are some of those opportunities out there, such as fair chance employment that exist, workplace mental health and wellness. I mentioned that in the earlier slide. Very, very big topic right now for employers all across the board, all across industries. So it's really important to be thinking through that. The aging workforce, right? We've got 5 different generations within the workplace that exists right now. And that aging workforce is critical from a knowledge standpoint. So I think employers are thinking about, again, attracting, retaining employees in a different way than maybe what they have in the past, where that aging workforce sometimes, may feel like they're not wanted within the workplace. Now they're critical because of the knowledge base they may be able then to produce for each employer. And then also employing abilities at work, those that have maybe some physical or disabilities of any sort within the workplace. You're seeing more and more of that population being able to integrate in. So a lot of opportunities for that. Again, big round of applause. So out of the chapters that we have worldwide, so think about this, Kentucky had 2 chapters that actually came in the top 25. I mean, that is amazing for the, 300,000 plus members that SHRM has worldwide. We've got number 2, Louisville SHRM came in, and that's a chapter I'm part of. And then Bluegrass chapter SHRM came in number 3, which Amanda's part of. So just things to think about as we, go throughout the year, trying to raise funds again for those scholarships, those opportunities for people to be able to develop themselves. But we're pretty excited to have 2 up there. So next slide, please. And then our state council, also proud of this as well. So Kentucky SHRM made it to the top 10 fundraising state councils, and we've done that consecutively for many years. So again, hoping in the role that I'm in, we continue to do that. And all of that is through everyone's help, all of the chapters, and participating with everything. So the other thing I wanted to share with all of you is that the Lyle Hanna Volunteer Spirit Award is coming up in terms of being able to nominate. So be thinking about those individuals within your chapter that are good standing SHRM members or, local members. These are the criteria. They need to just work or reside in Kentucky. They must be individuals with outstanding records of contributions to the HR profession and to the community. I think that's really important as well. They have to be individuals that really think about volunteering their time and expertise, again, to move our profession forward as well as to give back. So deadline for those nominations is Friday, June 10th. So please keep that in mind. And Katie, when will they be able to access on the website?
The application is on the website right
It's
now.
on there, right? Okay, wonderful. I just wanted to double check and make sure. So thank you. I don't know if anyone has any questions. You could always ask on the chat. But again, we just wanted to make sure you were aware of all of those different things from the foundation.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much for your time today. We definitely appreciate you all taking time out of your busy schedules to keep us abreast with all the things going on through Kentucky SHRM, through Foundation. And the interesting part, as they mentioned, that the Kentucky SHRM the state conference is coming up in June, and so there's I know from the speaker lineup it's looking great. They're putting together a wonderful group of speakers, and I know that so much time has gone into vetting them out so that you can have the absolute best conference experience. So I highly recommend that to anyone that is considering attending that. And then in addition to that, as well as they mentioned the foundation, the scholarships for those of you that are looking to achieve certification, or you are going to school for HR, whatever it may be, those are all available on their website for more information. The certification partnership or scholarship is a great complement to the SHRM certification scholarship that we do. So as your chapter, we reimburse half your expense of the prep work. So it partners really well with the foundation's efforts that you can apply for. So if you do have any questions or anything, please feel free to let one of us know. We would be happy to forward that on to get that answered for you. And then from this point, what we'd like to do is I will hand it over to Crystal Balentine, our Vice President, and she's going to introduce our main panel of speakers today. Again, it goes perfectly hand in hand with the presentation we had this morning discussing the benefits of certification. Before they get into that, I'd like to remind you all, if anyone is certified and we don't have that on record, or if you are a dual member and you're a member of National SHRM as well, make sure that we have that information too. We try and keep up with all of that too. So if you have that information, you can feel free to just drop it in the chat directly to me, Alan Waddell, or you can send an email to one of us and we'd be happy to get that recorded. So Crystal, I will turn it over to you.
All right, you guys, good morning. And I want to go ahead and tell you guys that I am working in Trigg County this morning and I'm having a little bit of connection problems. So I've asked Alan and Marianne that if I freeze up, if they'll just pick up for me until I get back on. We are excited today to share with you the benefits of certification. This is something I did, I think I did it about 9 years ago, maybe 10 even at this point. I've recertified since then. And for you ladies that just finished up, the recertification is not near as exciting as when you get that you pass score back. So we're excited that these ladies are going to share with you their story. So I'm going to introduce them to you. Mindy Smith is an HR generalist at Four Rivers Nuclear Partnership and an adjunct instructor in human resources at several different universities. Her primary role as HR generalist is recruitment. Mindy graduated from Western Kentucky University with a BS in Business Administration in 1996, followed by an MBA in 1998. She also has an MS in Human Resources from Mid-Continent University and a PhD from the University of the Cumberlands in Leadership. In February of 2022, she achieved the SHRM Certified Professional Distinction, as well as the Senior Professional in Human Resources. Congratulations on Mindy. I know that you worked hard for those. Latoya Burton hails from the south side of Chicago, Illinois. She served honorably in the U.S. Navy for nearly 6 years. Thank you, Latoya, for your service. Currently, Ms. Burton serves 40 plus team members and more than 2,500 families as the HR director and executive assistant for the Housing Authority of Paducah. She is on an intentional mission to take care of the people that take care of business. And then we've got, let me tell this a little bit more about Latoya. While tackling the demands of full-time work and motherhood, she earned her Bachelor of Integrated Studies from Murray State University in 2018. She is just as committed to serving and developing others as she is for her own personal growth. This past February, Ms. Burton earned the SHRM Certified Professional Distinction. Catherine Lanier is the Vice President of Human Resources at the Murray Bank, serving over 75 employees with all things related to payroll, benefits, training, coaching, and strategic planning. Her goal is to provide employees with whatever they need to be successful in their current and future roles. Prior to 6 years at the bank, Catherine worked as a training and development specialist, providing leadership and management training to organizations in the manufacturing, healthcare, education, and professional sectors. Catherine graduated from Murray State University with a BA in psychology and organizational communication in 1999, followed by an MA in organizational communication in 2000. In February 2022, she achieved the SHRM Certified Professional Distinction. Congratulations, ladies. This is a huge accomplishment. And I noticed that some of you finished school after you were moms and working, and I just did that myself. So I know that's not an easy task to do. So congratulations to that. And I know Alan has already touched on the fact that our membership, SHRM, Four Rivers SHRM, does assist in financially supporting our members for seeking their certification. And I think that is a fantastic thing. I was not a member of the SHRM when I did mine. So I'm really sad that I missed out on that. So we're going to start with you, Mindy. Tell us what worked for you when you were studying. What made you want to go on and get the additional level of certification that you did? Tell us your story.
Okay, first of all, I want to make sure you can hear me.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, because I had to dial in. I couldn't get the sound to work on Zoom. But so I've had my junior level certifications for many years. And when I had this opportunity to take the senior level SHRM certification, it was provided for free, the registration. So I started studying for that, and we did have a study group going for a while, but we found that was very difficult to coordinate schedules because we're all such busy people. So I think you have to find what works for you individually. And for me, I do a very good job of studying on my own. So I use the SHRM learning system, as well as I bought some outside resources. And I just basically went over questions. I tried to find as many sample tests as I could, and I took those over and over and over again and tried to pinpoint the questions that I've missed. So if I didn't understand a question or why I missed it, I would go back and research that. And I took my test in February, but I really didn't start studying hard until after Christmas because it's just so crazy busy around Christmas. So I let myself enjoy the Christmas holiday, and then I really accelerated my studying from January until I took the test in February.
Okay, Latoya, why don't you tell us your story?
Had to find the unmute button. So for me, as you've seen from my bio, I've done the educational piece kind of in reverse. So with the military and just working with the Department of Defense, I had a lot of experience, but not a lot of certification and qualification. So 2018, I finally decided to pursue my bachelor's degree, and then fast forward into being afforded the opportunity to network with Fort River SHRM, National SHRM, and the importance of having that certification. And just for me to prove to myself that although I didn't take the traditional route with my experience, that I could, take the test and prove to myself the mastery of knowledge I've obtained. So as far as studying, I would say the same. I did invest in the SHRM learning system. My babies, COVID visited my house in January, so I had nothing but time. So I seized the opportunity to really kind of buckle down and study. I will say that I kind of got nervous getting close to it. I wanted to kind of recant, but knowing that I've, told my coworkers I had a support system, they were like, well, you always encouraging us, you supporting us. You're really the best HR person we've had since, we've been here. Some of these employees have been here 20 plus years. So having the support system and just maximizing the opportunity to be at home. So YouTube, a lot of good information. Indeed, I want to say Cahoots, I'm probably saying that wrong. But investing is important. But if you don't have, like, I'm nonprofit, and luckily that they did invest in the learning system, but it was $700. There's a lot of resources on the internet. I was allowed to kind of jump in the last, I would say, month of the SHRM study group before it kind of disbanded, but I was able to utilize the flashcards that they put in the group, just listen to other people's stories and feedback, and then just taking it and just having faith in myself, and the rest is history. So February was very a good breath of fresh air to see that literally after I took it, and it was online, so it was the e-test. I didn't go into a regular testing facility, so that was kind of had me on edge as well. But by the time I left one building to my desk, they had already tabulated the results, and just to see that report results and then pass, okay. So that's my story.
I agree, Latoya. I can remember I took mine in Clarksville, and so the 1.5 hour, 2 hour drive down there just got my nerves so messed up by the time I got there. All right, Catherine, why don't you tell us your story?
Sure. I started with Mindy and the study group, and we started meeting in October. And I will say this had been on my radar for a couple of years, and then COVID hit. And so, really it was on, in my 2020 goals, and that got shoved away, and it was on my 2021 goals. And I was like, I don't know if this is going to happen or not. But I know when this group advertised the scholarships available for the test fees through National SHRM or Kentucky SHRM, I thought, well, my goodness, why not? And once I had that date, that was the buckle down time. But even though it was the buckle down time, we started meeting in the early fall, September, October. And that group was really good to really just sort of kickstart. So we each had different materials, but there were some things that we shared with one another, and it was some flashcards. We did some, we made assignments and said, okay, everybody, let's assign everybody 2 or 3 laws. And you just give everybody a summary of what those laws are, and let's talk through them during our next meeting. And I thought that was extremely helpful. But then when I did get the online learning system and also the books, the set of books. I'm a note taker. I'm a writer. I like things in paper. And so I was highlighting. I mean, I was rewriting things on note cards because that's just the way, at least 20 years ago, I learned. So I thought, well, let's just try that all over again. And it seemed to go well. But it came to the time period where I just really had to sit down and read and study textbooks because I knew that's what would work for me. Spent a lot of time doing that. I'm a little bit like Mindy. It got to be like November, and I thought, okay, the next month and a half is going to be completely crazy. How am I going to fit this time frame in? So I set a plan for just reading, because I thought there's 1,200 pages. And if I'm going to need to study all of this, that's 1,200 pages I need to read. So I set a schedule up and had everything read by early January. And then from then really focused in on the online test through the learning system, and then some additional online resources. There's a couple of Facebook groups and LinkedIn groups that were shared with us from some people that had taken the test before. So I glanced at those, got some resources from those, but really didn't spend a lot of time in those resources because it was just a lot of people talking and asking questions. And I felt my time was better spent looking at the resources that they described and then going there directly. I will say there were a couple of things that were very helpful. I spent some time on the road in January. So there were some resources that read the study questions from the learning system. And, here's 10 seconds to pause, and then here's the answer. And then it explained the answer. So it was not necessarily the SHRM learning systems resource itself, but it was a third party that had recorded questions and answers. And, just listening to those for 3.5 hours on my way home from Lexington was very helpful. It was just great time to review because I will be honest, I did try to read note cards on the road on the way to Lexington. Did not go well. So I was able to just spend a lot of time really diving deep into the learning system and their practice questions, and that sort of like what Mindy said, the repetitiveness of that. And then when you miss something, research why you missed it, and then go to another section, and 4 or 5 days later, revisit the section and see if that you retain that knowledge of what you'd missed before.
I think that is very great feedback, ladies. And Latoya mentioned something that I thought was really important for me as well, is the support system. Having people around you that encourage you and say, you can do this. I know my kids were probably 10 when I took the test, but when I had my little note cards that I had written my notes on, they would read it to me, and that was a good way for me to learn, was someone else read me the question so that I wouldn't cheat and make sure I got the answer correct. And that worked well for me. I know that the chapter is working on putting together our next cohort. I think we have about 35 people on the meeting today. So I would be curious if you guys don't mind either a reaction or in the chat box, how many of you have received your certification, whether that be through SHRM or through HRCI? I would like to see how many on the call have actually done that. So we've got, let's see what we get here. I've got several thumbs up, and we're seeing some chats come in. Oh, I see somebody's taking a test in July, so good luck to you guys. Maybe if you've gotten some feedback today that will help you as you prepare for your testing. Oh, and we've got another one, PHR testing next month. Great. For those of you that are on the call, what are some other things that you would like to ask these ladies that have just recently taken their test? what kind of feedback, what other things do you want to know? Or maybe if you're trying to do your PHR and one of us has done that, we can help you with maybe what that testing might be different. Has anyone done both testing? Mindy, did you do both PHR and SHRM? So Mindy would be a great resource for us on that if anyone has questions of wanting to get those. Summer, did you have a question?
Crystal,
Yes, ma'am.
I took my test within about 2 weeks of one another. I decided that since I had passed the SHRM SCP, that that knowledge was all fresh in my mind, I signed up to take the SPHR too. So if you're interested in getting both certifications, I would highly recommend doing that. So you don't have to study and then wait a few months and study all over again. I don't ever want to do it again, but if you decide you're going to get both certifications, I would recommend that.
Anyone else?
I had something to add, if that's okay.
Okay.
I know.
Yes.
Yeah, I just took my SPHR, or I'm sorry, SHRM CP. We were just talking about that, and all the acronyms. There's like way too many in our SHRM world. But I just took the SHRM CP last year, and one thing, Kentucky SHRM, just so you guys are aware, we do offer a certification program. You get the SHRM testing, you get the all the online, you get the book, and you get a actual professor that works with you. And we had 100% completion or pass rate from my class, so that was great. But I love that idea of cohorts too. I think that's the big ticket, is just knowing that you're not alone, kind of on this little island studying for it. But this other thing I would recommend, those of you that are considering doing it, don't forget, if your employer offers tuition reimbursement, it could be a great way to get that paid for as well. If you want to apply for the scholarship, if you don't make that, I know for my company, we offer tuition reimbursement, and this would definitely, help count towards that. So it's not like necessarily going to college, but you are learning, you're advancing. So don't forget that too. If the cost looks a little daunting at first, definitely think about checking with your employer on the tuition reimbursement side, if that's something they would consider for a class.
One thing that I would add, go ahead,
Catherine.
We all three of us alluded to the time that it takes. And I think planning out the time, all of us are busy, not only in our workplaces, but in our personal lives as well. And so it was a challenge to carve out the time, but I was able to, look at it, plan for it, and understand, okay, this is going to be for a 2 to 3 month period where I'm really going to buckle down and say no to other things so that I could say yes to studying. So I think the time is daunting to some people, but I also think it's necessary. And I would encourage anybody that's thinking about doing it, make sure you do carve out that time. The test is, I think, difficult enough that you're not going to just be able to study for 2 weeks and then go in and get it done. It's not that kind of test, and it does take the time to study. So I want to paint a realistic picture. It's very doable, but it also takes the time to study the materials as well. Would y'all agree?
We've gotten a couple of questions into the chat box. So how long were you in your profession before you decided to take the certification? Latoya, we'll start with you.
I can unmute again. I've been wanting to take it for a while, but fear and other things kept me from it. I've been in the HR profession for almost 16 years, so that sheds any light.
Yeah. Mindy, for you?
I've been in HR around 20 years, and I took mine probably 3 or 4 years in. And then don't ever do what I did. I let my certification lapse because I was working outside of HR. I worked in quality for several years. So I let my certification lapse, and then I had to go through the whole process of retesting. So learn from my mistake. Don't do that. Keep your certification up.
And Catherine, what about for you? How long were you in?
Well, I was in the training and development narrow field for about a decade, but have been an HR generalist for 6 years. And so my goal was after 3 years to do it in my 4th year. Didn't happen. So I've been in this role for about 6.5 years, and that's when I've gotten my certification.
Okay. And for me, I think it was about 3 years before I got my certification. And I went from being on the front line and helping in banking to taking over HR. So it was a complete change of pace for me. So I waited about 2 or 3 years to make sure it was something I wanted to do long-term before I decided to take that plunge. Okay, so we've had another question. How many hours did you guys commit to studying? So I think, Mindy, you said about a month and a half after Christmas is when you really started studying. So about how much time did you commit each week?
Each week, maybe 10 hours or so. And I was using every available minute. If I was at a doctor's appointment, if I was in the car waiting to pick up my son at track practice, I had an app on my phone and I was studying. So I think it's different for everybody and you have to find what works for you. But for me, I'm somebody who does best under a little bit of pressure. So putting that pressure on myself for about 6 weeks to really study hard.
Catherine and Latoya, would you guys agree? Is that about how you were every chance you got?
Honestly, I was here and there. I finally decided in September to apply to take the exam. And it probably wasn't until early November that I invested in the material. So that took a while to come. Like I said, I would look at the material, but it wasn't until probably the first week in January that I started at least every day, 2 hours, Monday through Friday, that I would dedicate, and then allow myself to take a break. Like, don't overdo it, reset the brain, relax, and then just really relying on yourself. So with taking a test, it's multiple choice. And so the thing kept ringing in my mind is, what is the best practice? So it looked like it could be the right answer. And so that's what I try to remember, even when assessing situations at work. What is the best thing to do? There can be different answers, but is it the best outcome? And so for me, I kept that in my mind the whole time I'm taking the test. Like, this could be right, but this seemed like it's the better approach. And so that was the driving force in my head the whole time. But I would say 10 hours a week would be the last 4 weeks up into it. And then the last 3 days before the test, that's it. I know what I know, and what I don't know, I can't worry about. I'm not stressed. I'm just going to go and relax and rely that, I've been doing this 15 years. No one's fired me yet, so I must be doing something right. And then I just took the time to invest with studying. So just having trust and remember best practice. What is the best approach? So that's what worked for me.
I would agree. I mean, I think that last month and a half, I was several nights a week doing 2 to 3 hours, when I in between activities and things. But when I could sit down, I like to have a huge chunk. Like Mindy, I had a couple apps on my phone. I always had stuff in the car, but I like that large time period to really focus on it. But before that, that was when, like I would say in October and November, that's when I was reading through materials, just getting more familiar with it. And that took some time as well, but that wasn't as much intense study time.
Okay. Mindy, we have a question specifically for you. Which test do you think was harder, the SPHR or the SHRM CP?
I think the SPHR was harder. For the SHRM SCP, I think there were a lot more opportunities to reason things out. And, if you have 4 answers on your multiple choice, to get it down to 2 and then to try to pick the best out of the 2. But for me, the SPHR, it was, I guess, more content focused on, there were some content items on there that I had never heard of before. And I thought, I'm just going to have to get at this. I don't have any way to reason this out. It seemed like the SHRM SCP was much more about situations and how you would respond to scenarios.
Thank you. That's really good feedback. So we have had a question of, should a person get a PHR before doing the SHRM, or do you think it matters? Does anyone want to take that one? Even some of you guys from our SHRM, state SHRM,
I'll
if you have seen it.
answer.
Okay, Tiffany.
Honestly, any additional certification is great. Looking from a, recruiting talent strategy standpoint, and I have a PHR as well as the SHRM CP, and that's a little more, for those of you who aren't as familiar, a little more detailed in the testing for that, but it shows an employer how much you care, first of all, about the work that you do, and that you're currently being educated more and more around, because as you know, the last couple of years, goodness, how many laws and regulations have come out there. All of us were starting from scratch, honestly, with that. So, and again, I took it early on when I first started career-wise. So it doesn't mean that you have to have a ton of experience. I just wanted to share that, a ton of experience, but just enough to know this is really part of what you want to do, and it's great for development. And again, take advantage of the different scholarships and training that are available both locally and on the Kentucky SHRM side, and don't let your certification lapse. I 100% agree on that. Thank you.
There has been some questions about what apps did you utilize to study? And so I've seen, I see that Katie has responded that she used Quizlet and an app on her phone, and also electronic note cards for the SHRM CP exam. I was able to purchase some note cards, but then I also created my own. Like I said, I was kind of old school. I had the paper index cards that I wrote things on and got feedback on that. So any of you guys that would like to put that in the chat or respond here, that would be great for everyone that's considering testing. Okay, and Latoya said YouTube. I did catch that earlier. I would have never thought to look at YouTube on that. So that's good feedback on that, Latoya.
And for the YouTube, it's like reading questions, going through the answers, why the answer is not correctly. And so like with most of the other ladies, while driving, picking up kids, instead of listening to music, I'll get YouTube playing and just like, oh, okay, multitasking. So however you need to get it done, but it was free.
And I looked at a couple of these Facebook study groups, and a lot of people were advertising their own paid study group and courses. I didn't subscribe to any of those, but there were also several posts throughout the different study groups who said, this is a good resource, this is a good resource. So I would just sort of look at some of those resources, and if it was, hey, take my course, then I would just pass, because I really felt like what I had was enough. But there were a couple of videos, I forgot which group it was, but it was linked in like the SHRM CP study group on Facebook. And they just had like 2-minute videos that said, hey, as you're studying, remember this about the test. And I just read through, or I just watched like 10 or 15 of those that they had posted, maybe 1 or 2 a month. And it actually was very helpful from someone who teaches a study group to say, here's 2 minutes of a tip. And they were good tips.
Great, thank you. And I see that Katie has also added something else in the chat box for a resource for the SHRM exam and information on there for you guys. Please know that we have been recording this meeting. So if you have someone in your organization, or maybe there's someone else in Forever SHRM, or for you guys on this council, anyone else please let them know that this recording will be available. That will be on our website, right, Marianne? Was that where that will be able to be found?
It'll be in the weekly newsletter, and we'll probably
Okay.
post it as well to our Facebook page.
Great.
I have better analytics in those areas.
Okay, so we can share that with people on our team. I know I have a new member in HR with my company, so this might be good for her if she's thinking about doing her certification in the future, for her to go back and watch this recording and get all the feedback from everybody. I'm telling you, this is valuable. I wish I had this when I did my certification. So thank you for you guys for your comments today. We did have another question in the chat box. I would encourage you guys to look at that. For all of you that are certified, and see your feedback to Russell. I believe he's looking at retirement at this point, would SHRM certification benefit him? My thoughts on that would be, if it's something that you've wanted to do for yourself, then I think you should do it, no matter how much time left you have in your work life. Because I will tell you, my husband has retired and gone back to work. So you never know what your future might hold. That would be my advice. If anyone else would like to give feedback on that as well, you can do that in the chat box. Is there anything else that you guys would like to say before we end today? I think it's always great to end a meeting a little bit early if you can, and give people a little extra time in their day.
I did think of one thing, Crystal, and if you have gotten your certification in the past few years or in the past however long, you may know that SHRM has organized their test around a body of knowledge. So it does not change frequently, but actually in the last few months, it has changed. So I just want to let you all know, when you go online and on eBay, you'll see lots of study materials. People will sell their books. They're trying to recoup that $800, at least partly, but those books are different from what is currently being tested on. Our group tested on the Bach, and they phased that out as of March. So it's not entirely different, but it is a new model. It has some new parts. It has things that are organized differently, and they are redoing the books for the new model. And I know that, like, for the study materials that you all helped purchase and split the price with this chapter, we have access to those study materials, and there is an addendum which gives it sort of the rollover to the new model. So we still have access to that. But if you're looking at buying materials secondhand, know that it's different as of March 2022. So I do want to just throw that, not necessarily a warning out there, but just so that you know, it will be different than what you would even see on the SHRM website right now of the model you should study.
And can we just say, as a chapter, can't we see what value our members getting certified brings to our chapter? I mean, look what knowledge we've learned today from these 3 members of our chapter that have given this wonderful feedback to us. And even though, as someone that certified several years ago, it has made me think, well, maybe I should go on and do something more like Mindy did. So Mindy's my hero. Just congratulations, you ladies. I'm very proud of you, as I know everyone else in our chapter is as well. So I'm going to turn the meeting back over to Alan. Again, thank you everyone for your participation this morning.
Ellen had to step away for a few minutes, so I will close the meeting.
All right.
To thank everyone. It's so good to see everyone's faces and to hear this excitement about certification. Please remember that we do want to support our members who are pursuing. From time to time, we get notice about various fee waivers. And of course, we have the testing assistance. If there's anything that we can do to help support you in your journey toward certification, we want to be there. Congratulations to everyone who earned their certification in February. We're so proud of you. And for those who are testing this summer, if there's anything you need, we are here for you. Thank you so much. Have a good day. We'll see you in May.